Welcome to Plain Talking, brought to you by Smoke on Go and Pratt & Whitney. Today we are delighted to have Sven Creyer, who is not only a chartered accountant, but an avid conservationist and somebody who is incredibly passionate about what we are going to talk about today. Sven, welcome to Plain Talking, and it's wonderful that you've made the time for us today.
Thank you, Sally. It's a great pleasure to be here and to be part of this. Thank you for inviting me.
Sven, so when I did a little bit of research, I basically read that you were a chartered accountant. Can you tell us about the journey from being a chartered accountant into your passion for conservation, which then led you to the Bataleurs?
Well, Sally, it actually goes back a step before that to probably when I was 3 years old. My parents were big into conservation, especially my mother. And every holiday that we would have, we would be out in the bush, Kruger Park or Namibia or Mozambique or Zimbabwe. So we did a lot of traveling into the national parks in Southern Africa, right through my life. And in fact, I don't think we had one beach holiday lying on the beach. So I was inculcated into the bush experience.
Yes.
And my mother became a trustee of the Wilderness Leadership School and did a lot of work with Ian Player. And that is in fact where the Bataleurs really, the concept of the Bataleurs was spawned, was through a flight that Ian Player had organized around the dune slumping at Richards Bay Minerals. So I've really grown up with conservation as my background. So I didn't go from a CA to conservation.
Okay.
I would say more that I became a CA because that's what I did.
Yes.
And then I never practiced as one. Instead, I've been involved in numerous ventures through life and different businesses. Been very lucky from that point of view. And then I've landed up more involved now with the company One World Sustainable Investments that works mainly in the climate change space.
Yes.
Mainly around developing strategies to adapt to climate change. I also have an interest in a company selling recycled truck tires as an acoustic subflooring installation system. I've been a member director of the Bataleurs since day one. And the environment is my passion. It's something I grew up with, and it's something that I feel very close about. Biodiversity, welfare, and the environment. I mean, it's very sad for me to see what's going on in the world in terms of us destroying our own life support system.
Yes.
And it's something I can't help doing. So I'm very happy to be in this space.
Well, that's amazing. Well, we see climate change. You just have to look at the weather currently in Johannesburg to see what climate change is doing to us.
Absolutely.
And I believe the Bataleurs was founded by your late mom, Nora.
Correct.
And that was in 1998.
Correct.
And from that stemmed all the board of directors, which you are part of, and
Yes.
all of that. Is that correct?
Yes. So, well, from that we had to have a board. We were a registered non-profit organization. And we had to have a board of directors in terms of law, but in any event, you need one for good corporate governance. And so we've had directors, some of whom have come and gone, and others who've been with us a long time. Avril Lane, Jay van Deventer, Colonel Bill de Pino, Steve McCurrach.
Yes.
There's a lot that have been with us a long time. Don Bailey joined us. He's been a long-term Bataleur member, and he joined us maybe 10 years ago. So, and then Raymond Stein, who's had a long history in flying, and now is Pilatus, and he joined us on the board maybe 8 years ago as well, roughly speaking. So we've got a lot of directors who are very involved in aviation, who are very concerned about the environment, and who are just wonderful to have part of our board.
Yes.
Fantastic interacting with them.
And so the Bataleurs was born.
Well, yes,
Yeah.
the Bataleurs were born, and these people came on board. So, yeah, the Bataleurs was born to fly for the environment.
Yes.
To use an aerial perspective to enable better decision making.
Yeah.
So sometimes we do fly animals from one place to another if we deem it in conservation interests, in the interest of conservation, for gene pool management, for example, or re-establishing new populations in areas where animals have been removed. But we really wanted to give people an aerial perspective of the issues on the ground. So erosion, spills, pollution, game census, land usage issues. So anything where an aerial perspective would benefit a decision-making process is what we really stand for. But we do that for basically non-profits. We wouldn't fly Anglo-American, for example.
Yes.
They can afford an aeroplane.
Yeah.
So I shouldn't have chosen them specifically, I suppose, but you get You get my meaning.
Yeah.
So we
for commercial. So anybody,
Yes.
you're not doing this
No.
for any commercial gain or
no.
with a company that has a commercial avenue. This is for non-profit organizations.
Non-profit, we have included that depending on the mission to fly for government.
Yes.
Some people say they can afford their own, but they wouldn't get in the air if it wasn't for us. So there are occasions when we do fly for government. We're not an advocacy group. We don't generate the missions ourselves.
Yes.
We are dependent on people seeking our services.
Yes.
And then we react to that.
So on your website, I did see there it was the first Air Force for the environment, and I love that. It's nice and bold, and that's exactly what it is. It's an Air Force for the environment. When I took a look at your website, it's incredibly informative. It's so easy to use, and it showed me that there are 3 pillars that put the whole thing together. It's your donors, your conservationists, and your pilots.
Correct.
Can you give us a brief overview of what each one of those pillars does to help the Bataleurs?
Absolutely. So let's start with the pilots. The most important part of our organization. Without them, we don't have an organization. We
Yes.
could have lots of requests from NGOs, but nowhere to fulfill it. And our pilots, a lot of them have joined because they have a strong conservation ethic, environmental. Some of them have joined, I think, because they see the opportunities it gives them to fly certain projects or missions that they would never otherwise get exposure to. Flying in protected areas, transporting endangered animals, making a difference to the environment. And we're one of the NGOs, we like to think, or one of the few NGOs that actually puts more value back into a mission or community than what we need to raise financially. So I think many NGOs will raise money and maybe 10% will go to projects and the rest might go to administration. Whereas if we raise R1, and that's really literally to run a very small staff and marketing and various other bits and pieces. But the value that we give back, if we're raising 1, we're putting back 5. The value of a pilot's aircraft and his time for free, or her time for free, is immense. So we take a small amount and we scale it up inversely to provide that bang for buck, so to say. And everyone's benefiting. The environment's benefiting. The pilots are enjoying what they're doing. They're feeding back into conservation. We're helping the environment. So there's the one leg. So a big shout out to our pilots. Thank you. Without you, we don't exist. Secondly is the donors. And that, as in any non-profit, is an ongoing issue. When have you raised enough and when haven't you raised enough? And it's an ongoing issue for us. Unfortunately, we have not been really successful on a long-term basis with corporate South Africa. Corporate basically has other funding requirements and social responsibilities that they feel they need to take care of. So we have had some funding, to be fair, but not a lot. At the moment, we receive the majority of our funding from overseas, from the UK, from the Trust is a fantastic supporter of ours. And then we do have other people that give smaller grants on an ongoing basis, and sometimes not ongoing, but they do come back. So we are, as you will have seen from the website, we have launched a range of T-shirts, caps, and a whole lot of paraphernalia, and that we are hoping will become a more consistent revenue generator for us. But we are always looking for ways to raise money and to raise money and to provide a more consistent way of generating that money rather than being dependent year to year where we don't know what we'll get.
Yeah.
Then the third leg is people that want to fly for the benefit of the environment, for conservation. So we do a lot of work for the Endangered Wildlife Trust. We've done a lot of work, from transporting oxpeckers, transporting wild dogs, vulture surveys, eagle surveys, counting crane eggs near Howick. It seems crazy, but wattle cranes were on a very dangerous list, and they use an aircraft now to go and spot eggs on a nest in a wetland and GPS it. And if there are 2 eggs in the nest, we know that the second egg is insurance. So they will then mark it, go and take the second egg and incubate it and add that to the population.
That is incredible.
Yeah, so those are the type of things that we do for organizations. We fly for a lot of NGOs. We've flown for Working for Water quite a number of times, not as much recently. We've flown for animal welfare. We've flown for gene transport, gene genetics. We've done a lot of flying, and we are dependent on these NGOs for our existence because, as I said, we're not an advocacy group. We respond to requests. But I think it's difficult for us to get enough applications because I think people don't perceive that this is a free service.
Yes.
It's a free. It sounds too good to be true, and so we could do with more. And they say, how many missions is your limit in a year? And we say, well, we don't know yet because
we haven't reached our limit.
We haven't reached, and
Yeah.
we want to fly as much as we can. So until we run out of pilots or run out of aircraft or run out of whatever, we would like to at least have the chance of doing those missions.
Yes.
Not all missions are approved. We have a system of an application comes in and the board has a round robin as to whether to approve it or not. If we need outside expertise, we go to specialists in their field, consult with them as to whether they think this is a viable project or mission for us to undertake. And if the vote is yes, then we generally are successful in completing the mission, weather dependent and sometimes aeroplane dependent if it's a very specialized aircraft.
So I did see that there is, you can request for a mission, and there's a disclaimer there. It's not for commercial benefits,
Yes.
and so if we just backtrack, basically, who are the people that are requesting these missions, and what is who's the target market to request these missions to then, get the ball rolling?
So in the main, it's conservation, wildlife, non-profit organizations working for water programs for government or working, public sector works programs in government. We've flown looking at alien invasive plants, forests. We've flown Cape Leopard Trust. We've flown for the Landmark Foundation, both involved with leopards, telemetry, tracking leopards in the mountains, for example, where they can't track them or if they lost telemetry site. Doing bird surveys over the Karoo, where you fly low, flush up birds. I think it's the Ludwig's busted. And then you extrapolate their numbers by the number that you fly up on a certain transect over the area. So it's really, it's people, non-profit organizations, sometimes individuals, sometimes it's media that's exposing a story.
Okay.
So we have in the past flown for SABC at 450-50 in those days for carte blanche. We have flown for some of the journalists in Durban around the sand mining, illegal sand mining, because that's a type of issue that you really get
Yes.
a clear perspective of from the air. So if it's in the public interest, we do consider flying for media, notwithstanding that there might be some commercial aspect of it, but if it's going to get aired and is of benefit to the public, we do consider it.
So once the request is put in,
Yes.
it then goes to the board discusses it.
Yeah.
And how then is the mission, do you have a WhatsApp group?
Yes.
How do you?
So we used to do it by email, and
Okay.
Steve has now instituted a WhatsApp group too.
Okay,
So if it's a general mission, it will go out to all our pilot members to say, is anyone interested?
yes,
If it is a mission that is for a specific type of aircraft, we would identify that grouping or a specific person if we know there's only one of those people that could possibly do this.
okay,
But if it's a general request, we like to put it out to all our pilots to see who responds. Then obviously it'll depend on how many packs there are, if it's just a visual flight with a camera, if it's transporting animals that need cages. So it will depend on the specs of the aircraft, the competency of the pilot. But we put it out then to a group that is on our database to say we've received this request, it's been approved, is there anyone interested in doing this?
okay.
As a general statement. If it's more specialized, as I said, we will then approach a smaller group or a specific individual if we know that that is the only helicopter in that area
Yes.
or the only plane caravan in a certain area.
And what's your criteria for your pilots?
So the joining 400 hours for a PP or for a single, for a pilot.
Yeah,
It was 200 hours for microlight, and I think 200 hours, I can't remember what the helicopter, I think it was 250 hours. We've now just opened, and 20 hours pilot in command.
okay,
We've just opened a category now for 200 hours for PPLs if they are transporting telemetry equipment on their own, or if they're transporting an animal that needs rescuing like a pangolin,
okay,
and there's no packs involved. Otherwise, it's 400 hours.
okay. I'll make the cut.
I think you might make the cut several times over, really.
So there's a range of aircraft that I've seen in your gallery. I've seen Bonnies, I've seen Barons, there's a PC-12 there.
Yeah.
A lot of your light sport aircraft as well. I think I saw Ryan Beaton in his RV as well. Carl Jensen in
Carl
Val his 170. I think he's just done a mission with meerkats.
He has. Carl has been one of our staunchest supporters. He's such a wonderful guy.
And I think he might be one of your oldest members.
One
I mean,
of our
he's
oldest
just turned
members,
80.
and it wouldn't surprise me if he's also one of the members that has flown the most. He has done so many flights for us, including for the Centre for Environmental Rights, often flying out over the east from Pretoria to Mpumalanga, over the pollution, over Eskom. But so many other missions Carl has done, and whenever he gets a chance to do a shout out for us, he does. And so at the air shows that we go to and represented, Carl is a fantastic guy and a great supporter of the Bataleurs. So thank you, Carl.
Yeah, I followed the whole story on Facebook with him, and I've grown up with Carl, so he's just that kind of person, and it's amazing. So we have watched, and his hours also exceed your bare minimum.
Maybe just. So when the mission gets now assigned, we say we're going to do that. We go and find the pilot, and then depending on the circumstances, we either put the requester and the pilot in touch with each other so that they can finalize the date, the time, what's going to happen.
Okay.
Alternatively, if it needs, organization and fuel supplies put on somewhere or permits for animals, we might get involved in coordinating aspects of that or a lot of that. So depending on what's involved in the mission, we and mostly Steve in this case will put together the bones of the mission and what needs to happen. But at some stage, the beneficiary and the pilot get put in touch to finalize the arrangements.
Okay.
And then we need indemnity forms from passengers, indemnity form from the pilot, obviously, that must be done before the flight takes place. And then after the flight, we request the beneficiary or the benefactor or the person that's benefited to give us a report on the mission and was it successful, plus any photographs that we could use.
Okay.
So we try and collect that information. Not always easy to get it promptly, but that is what we ask in return for the mission, is to give us feedback on the success or otherwise of the mission. And
are the missions in South Africa, or do they go broader, across border?
So many years ago, probably 2003-04, we flew a little elephant to Kenya to Daphne Sheldrake's elephant orphanage. And the little guy that was rescued, he was called Madiba actually, and went up in a Pilatus.
Oh, okay.
And that was facilitated also by Raymond, and I think Coastal Air also had a role to play. So Pilatus was down here having a service done, and we managed to hitch a ride for the little Ellie back to there. We've also done a game count at Saba in the early days. We have flown in Mozambique, Bazarutu, Dugong counts. We've flown a survey with 7 microlights many years ago in Maputo Elephant Park in Mozambique.
Yeah.
7 microlights flying in formation. Joe Holmes, who used to be a director, he organized that mission. Joe, we miss you. We have flown in Namibia. We've done a survey right up the length of Namibia in a 210, counting whales, dolphins, and turtles, a mile off the shore.
Oh my word!
Yeah, so that was Nico in his 210, and that was a while ago. So we have flown in Namibia as well, and we have taken Air Namibia. In fact, once took Griffin Vultures for us from South Africa for a descent to their Waterberg in Namibia. We have flown, I think, painted dogs in Zim, but we have more and more now. We've flown into Malawi and Mozambique with wild dogs recently, and cheetahs on a number of occasions. And in fact, we've just been part of bringing wild dogs back to South Africa. We've bred so well in Gorongosa that they're now bringing some of the gene pool back here.
Oh, that is wonderful.
So we have been part of that, but it's a challenge flying cross country now. Zambia is extremely difficult to fly into, and with the permissions. It's more difficult. So we have tended to fly more in South Africa and missions into other countries from South Africa far more now than. But although we would still go and do surveys if it was the Bazarutu archipelago, for example. But it has become more difficult. Insurance requirements have become far more difficult in Mozambique and in other countries. So we are probably more South Africa and neighboring countries based rather than reaching further than that.
Well, we are. This whole series is sponsored by Pratt & Whitney. So the fact that PC-12 took a baby elephant there, it's kudos to that engine that and the Pilatus that took that
service,
little
service properly,
a little baby Ellie. With all of that as well, I follow Patty Wagstaff, and most people know that she's my absolute hero now, and she spends a huge amount of her time in Kenya, and she goes and she trains all the Kenyan wildlife pilots for surveying and game capture. And every year she goes and she does a stint in Kenya. And she also flies dogs, rescue dogs that find homes in America. She flies them across state to all over. So I love these kind of stories and all of that. Of all the missions that you have done, right? Bafana, our editor, and I heard a story today that was fascinating, where one of your pilots, your jackals in the cradle were being infected by the wild dogs, and by wild dogs, not the wild dogs, dogs with rabies.
Yeah.
And the vets made bait balls.
Yes.
And a grid was set out in the cradle, and out of his safari, it was Thomas Marrow, he threw bait balls.
Well, actually, it was Katja Koppel, the vet from Honesteport, who threw the bait balls.
Oh, okay, so Thomas was...
He flew the plane.
eye on the prize. And bait balls were thrown out of the safari so that these jackals could... it was vaccination. And Bafana and I were sitting listening to this going...
So it wasn't a poison bait, it was actually
vaccination. Yes. So that for us is pretty wild. There must be some other wild missions that have happened.
So we wouldn't consider that a wild mission. In terms of missions that are unusual, I mean, the crane egg one that I've just given you.
Yes.
You know, that is such a success story, and we've done it for so many years for them. EWT. I admit it, we flew into Angola once. Joe, who did our elephant count with the microlights, he went to look for giant sable.
Okay.
A while ago, and actually lost his microlight, put it down, and managed to, over 50 kilometers, managed to team up with his people and get out of there again. So that was a mission of note.
Yeah, an adventure.
An adventure.
Yeah.
So there's an adventure. You know, we've done so many things over the years. Some are more, I suppose, more routine. Game counts, but they all require good discipline, flying tracks, discipline in flying, low-level counting. Those are, you know, I don't know how to answer your question really as to what stands out. We have done, you know, in the first couple of years we flew 4 or 5 missions. Then by 2005 we've done 72 in a year. Then sometimes we do repeat missions for anti-rhino poaching.
Yes.
So does that count as one mission, or is that 50 flights in a year, each one is separate, or is it all one mission? So we've done so much work for anti-poaching work, so much work in terms of transporting animals, especially in gene pools, and setting up new populations. We've had, many years ago, Avroy Schlein, we got a call to say that a cheetah right near Limpopo, near the border on a farm, a female was found impaled on a stick. She had been hunting and ran into the stick. And so there were 4 cubs that needed rescuing. And Avroy went up, I think, that day or that morning to go and fetch them. So, I mean, that was a really speedy response.
Yes.
Often we can't respond that quickly, but in that instance we could. There was a great story of an immediate response providing immediate value. Flying surveys in Kruger Park, Eugene Kazane with his helicopter doing vulture surveys. I mean, that's an immense study, and we do that for Andre Buerta from EWT. I mean, there's so much work that goes on in terms of also surveys, not just our rescue. Eskom power lines, looking for eagle nests. I mean, I don't know.
Jeez, and that's dangerous. Those power line, that kind of flying is dangerous. You've got to have your wits about you.
We've got to have, and clearly, you know, we do assess the conditions, and the pilot obviously needs to assess the conditions, and we're not asking a pilot to go and fly under the power lines. You know, we're asking them to stay above it and count from above. So yes, they can be different, but again, there you're flying along it and not intercepting it.
Yes.
That's hard unseen, so to say. There are so many missions we've done. Pelican counts in the Cape, surveys in lagoons. It goes on and on and on. I could sit here all day listening to them. And on our website, you'll see a list of them as well. You'll see
it was just
list.
We heard one, and I mean, even you talk about your shop now, and he even mentioned that when he flies, he has his veldskoen that have got Bataleurs, written on the side. So Sven, you you have mentioned quite a few of the other conservation departments that you are involved with through the interview. But is there anybody that you would, really want to mention that helps the Bataleurs and keeps them together and going as strong as they are?
Thank you for that. So, in terms of the people that use our services, we have some people that use us a lot and are very familiar with us, and we do a lot of work with them. I think some of the organizations we've flown for, I think if there's a change of management or a change of personnel, they forget about the service we can offer. And so we would like to be called more, and I can't single out specific organizations necessarily.
Yeah.
But to say to anyone who might be watching this, if you're aware of a non-profit organization or a conservation body that could use the benefit of an aerial perspective, please do tell those people to be in touch with us, at least engage with us and see whether we might be able to be of some benefit to them.
Yes.
In terms of the donors, please, anybody who thinks they can find any way or help us in terms of a regular grant, an ad hoc grant, any ideas on how we can raise money, it occupies too much of our time, as I'm sure it does for every NPO. It occupies too much of our time on how we're going to fund this, and
yes.
it's albeit not a huge cost in general terms, in terms of how many organizations are structured and what they provide. And then our pilots. We have a lot of pilots in certain areas, but I think in the Northwestern Cape we're a bit short, in the Free State we're a bit short, and we're always looking to encourage pilots. Of course, the flip of that is there's some pilots who've signed up and who really haven't flown a mission because they don't have the time at the time we need them, or
yes.
they don't have the appropriate aircraft. But other times we've had many pilots who've flown for us on numerous occasions. But our pilot base, without them, we're a non-starter. So
yeah.
really that's, I suppose, that's the first thing is pilots. And then thereafter, depending on the cost structures we carry, is the missions and the donors sort of in equal measure, I suppose. We can't do one without the other in a measure. Also, and I know we compete in this space with most of the people that we fly for, actually, but the Woolworths My Planet, My School card.
Oh, really?
We've signed up with them, and in our website and in all our newsletters, we say, please sign up with us. So for those of you that don't know, the My Planet card, if you spend 100 Rand at Woolworths and you've signed up, 1% of your shop goes to your nominated beneficiary. So you can go in and nominate a beneficiary, and there's pages of beneficiaries you can nominate. You can split that 1% up between 3 organizations if you want, or you can just give it to one. Some people that I've spoken to have figured out after 15 years that they're still contributing to their school when their kids had left long ago.
My mother.
And they've said, of course we'll swap to you. And so if anyone, and I don't want to discourage people for conscious support of their chosen charity,
yes.
obviously. But for anyone who either isn't a member or has forgotten who they are supporting, please consider joining the Bataleurs.
Well,
and if they let me know that they've signed up, we sell a bag on our website, a branded bag that Don and Tanya from Expanded Sign make.
Oh, okay.
Yellow bags. And they are big supporters of us financially. They give us a cut of all the bags they sell. But these bags are also available for sale. But I and our board will give one of these lovely shopping bags branded to anyone that says we have signed up with the Bataleurs on My Planet program.
Oh, that's just fantastic.
And thank you, Don and Tanya, for your shout out, for all you've done for the Bataleurs through Oswela too.
Sven, if it wasn't for Carl and if it wasn't for the likes of Thomas Mera as well, and Chris Buchanan, our head editor, for telling us about it, I'm for sure signing up as one of your pilots, and I cannot wait to be. I'm a huge animal lover. I'm a huge conservationist myself. I love everything that you guys do. So I'll be signing up for sure as soon as I get back. There's that link, and I can't wait for the first mission. I'm your gal. All right.
Thank you.
Right.
Much appreciated, and we look forward to many more interactions.
Thank you. From Smoke on Go and Plain Talking and Pratt & Whitney, it's Sven Kaya from the Bataleurs. Thank you for spending the time with us. We hope you enjoy it. Sign up today, pilots. You are all welcome and you're all needed, and it's for an incredibly great cause. For now, cheerio.